Hey everyone, welcome back to TWIP Live. This is Alex, and we have quite a great cross section for today. We were talking about this technological cross section here. Mikkel, Aaland, who I didn't expect you to come in, but it was great to have you. It was awesome.
It's meant to be.
It's a choice surprise, and also Derrick Story, of course.
Oh, good to see you.
Good to see you. And Frederick is not here today.
I'm Frederick.
Well, you are Frederick.
Yeah.
You look a little different than Frederick, but anyway, but we're very, very glad to have you guys, and we are. I think this is just going to be a fun conversation. One of the things about it, if you're watching live, you can ask questions. So what you should do is ask them. So what you can do is if you're looking at this on the website, you're going to see a place where you can click to add questions. When you ask that, you're going to go into our feedback loop. And so I don't see any questions here right now, which means you haven't been listening. Well, I guess you have been listening, you just haven't been typing. So anyway, what you need to do is actually go to the feedback loop, sign in. Now, if you're a Pixel Core member, this is not your Pixel Core sign in. You got to put your email in, put other stuff in. Don't use your Pixel Core. It's not the same. Sorry. It's someday. Anyway, so what you want to do is you want to sign in there, and then you can ask questions. If you see a question that you like, vote it up. If you don't like it, then vote it back down. So you can vote the questions up and down. You can ask your own questions, and it's kind of fun. So anyway, definitely ask those questions here. We're going to be talking about, maybe a printer. I'm thinking, since it's here.
This is like the 800-pound elephant on
the
show.
Exactly.
Here.
We're going to be talking about lenses today.
What are we talking about, Alex?
Yeah, so we're going to be talking about printer, and so if you have questions about printing, of course, pop those questions in. But if you have questions about, as we get further down the road, if you have questions coming up about photography, we have some excellent trainers and experts here. So what you want to do is type those in as well, and then we will answer them until we run out of time or run out of questions. So hopefully we'll see a lot of those. So once again, click on the little thing that says if you want to give feedback. There's also an IRC chat that you can go to chat with each other while the show's going on. If you type stuff into there, we're not going to answer it. The only place we're going to answer it is in the feedback loop. So just make sure that we're all on the same page. Anyway,
does that go for us too, Alex?
Yeah, yes, if you type stuff into the IRC, Derrick, I'm not going to answer it. You'll see Derrick down here typing in stuff. So we're
Alex not letting me talk.
Yes.
Help.
Yeah, exactly. Someone ask a question for me. So we're going to talk about monitors, as we were saying before.
Monitors?
That was a Freudian slip.
No, it wasn't.
That was because your
printing monitor.
Your printing is a monitor.
Well, so the funny thing is,
right?
Yeah,
so that was Freudian.
Yeah,
that was a Freudian thing.
It was actually on. Well, anyway, we're talking about these are real. These create old-fashioned monitors. Like it comes out. It's a machine that creates. See, this is a paper monitor. See, it looks like a monitor, except it doesn't move as much.
It's a really thin monitor.
Yeah, exactly. Look at that. Look at that technology right there, and then it produces an image. I know that's crazy.
But this is a technology that yet we haven't really replaced yet because it's device independent once you have it, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's
no electricity.
It feels good.
No batteries.
It's green. Well, kind of green.
It feels good. It's
green.
It's green. Wait a minute.
It's a couple trees. Well, I was going to say it's green.
Green that
because
way.
you're not playing the monitor over and over
right.
again. See, that's the key.
I was thinking, the color tint's pretty good.
Yeah. He doesn't. Yeah, that's his version of green. So the thing that I haven't really printed very much, other than like documents. I haven't printed much for a decade. The main reason I haven't printed it, I spent a lot of money on an Epson printer, and it was like $800 or $900 on it. This is 10 years ago. And I was pretty unhappy with the results. And I bought another monitor. It was almost another monitor. See, now that was already slipped. I bought another printer that was almost as expensive, and again was unhappy. And then after that, I just kind of said, I'm just going to put stuff on my screen. And now we have like an Apple TV, and my aperture goes to, my aperture automatically puts up something that my Apple TV has, and it goes up on our big LCD, and it just kind of keeps on changing, and my wife loves it. But I have to say, like when you see a photo and you're just like, you can touch it. There is something very.
And I actually, at my studio, I actually leave them out laying around because I actually want people. I don't want them behind glass. I want people to.
Remember when we discovered that?
And we discovered that in Iceland. We discovered that in Reykjavik.
With them.
We were a kind of tight, really tight time constraints, and we were doing an exhibit in Iceland together. And we said, well, we don't have time to put these on the wall. We're printing out all these beautiful Epson prints. Epson was the printer, and so we just decided to lay them out on the table.
Right.
And had a big reception.
And people came in. You were the one that noticed that, Derrick. You said, look at them. They're really into those. They were picking them up and touching them.
It was a revelation for me.
And it was a whole room filled with people that were having this tactile, sensual experience with
Well, I think that there is something about that when you go through the photos that is very different, because when it's on the screen behind a piece of glass, in some ways it's like a monitor, you know. But when you're touching it, there is something that
Well, and I think you get to, as a viewer, sort of like handing someone an iPad also, they get to control the experience, right? They get to control the angle, the distance, all that sort of stuff. So they have a lot more interaction with the image. Yeah.
And my parents still like the paper.
Yeah.
A lot better.
I still like the paper.
No, I like it. We, one of the episodes that I want to do in the future is portable printers.
Yes.
That's another thing, because I like to do it in Africa.
You don't call this portable?
Yeah, I mean, I just carry it around with me.
Well, when you look at this, what I will say is when you look at this,
this arm's a lot bigger.
Yeah,
than the other.
exactly. When you look at this image, it is truly amazing. You have to do this kind of old-fashioned thing. I know you think that this is, but you don't understand what we went through to get an image like this. I mean, dye sub printers, and it was $10 a print, and it was, and that was,
So that's actually a good segue, because things have gotten a lot easier, even from when that printer that you talked about.
Right.
So I mean,
because the big thing you would see on a lot of even the high-end printers, is you see the little lines.
Oh gosh,
you see those little really subtle little lines and stuff like that, and it was just like you really wanted that image, but no matter what printer you got, you get close to it like this, and you just see this little subtle. But and there's nothing like that here.
No,
this is just gorgeous.
and we can also look at the glossy now too.
Well, and this is a good example. Let's put this. I think you'll be able to see the difference. It's harder to see the difference on these.
Although
you can see it.
I can see it.
The blacks
so you can see that the blacks are a lot richer,
Yeah.
and those blacks being richer just really makes everything pop.
It jumps out. Now this printer has a lot to do with what we're seeing here, because this is the latest technology.
Right.
And so they have put a lot of things inside. It used to be that, remember, you had to do ICC profiles and all that sort of stuff. We would never, even a few years ago, ever let the printer manage the job, right? We always had to have the application. Now things have sort of changed around, and I start out with the printer managing the job, and both of these that you're looking at, these are first prints. These are first. That's
just what came out of.
That's the first
so
print.
These are out of the box.
Out of the box. Let me open up. So this is out of the box, and you can see, compared to what we have on the screen here, that it's pretty good. It's pretty good.
It is.
First print.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So and this is letting the printer manage the process now. So it's gotten it's magic.
So you have a printer driver here that is synced up, and they've built it for Aperture or Lightroom, or are they building? How are they managing that?
So the way that it works, just like when any other printer, you download the driver and you load it onto your system. I'm using a Mac here. This works for Mac and Windows both, sort of thing. And so it's a two-stage system. So we're looking at Aperture here, and so I do the initial work in Aperture. And you can have a proofing profile in Aperture, so what you see on the screen is similar, to what's going to come out, all that sort of stuff. And then what Aperture does is it prepares the print job, and then it hands it off to the Epson print driver. We can actually do that.
Yeah, let's.
You want to do that here?
Let's make a print.
We can talk and print at the same time here.
That's crazy. That's how good we are here.
I'm going to go on. This is, by the way, I'm using Red River paper here. I use both Epson and Red River paper.
Where do you get Red River paper?
RedRiverCatalog.com. Red River Catalog.
Red River Catalog. That's the whole URL?
That's the RedRiverCatalog.com. And if you do /TWIP, they got a special deal.
Do they really?
They do. So it's honest.
I'm going to go advantage of my own.
Yeah, no, it's really, it's a very good price. So let's do a print right now. So I'm just going to do the thing here.
And this is the matte?
Yeah, we're going to do the matte right now. So we're going to just go to print. So it comes up. So here in Aperture, and this works for Lightroom, works for Photoshop, all whatever flavor you want. I like to use Aperture because I get to set up these presets here. So my job is already set up for this printer.
Right.
So and you go, well, Derrick, why do you need presets? Well, like on matte paper, you might want to do a little bit more sharpening than you would with glossy paper, right? Because there's a little bit more dot spread.
Right.
Little things like that.
You can set the size too, Derrick.
Yeah, you can set the size, all that good
paper.
stuff. Yeah, so you're not fooling around.
Now, do you worry about things like the old-fashioned stuff of dot gain and everything else? Is it
Not
that's
really.
figuring out all that stuff for you?
It's pretty much
not,
taken
you don't
care
have to worry
of.
about. That used to be a big part of my.
That's offset printing. Yeah.
I know. I used to have to deal with that a lot.
So now what Aperture does, it hands it off to the print driver, right? And so in the print driver, I really only come to one screen here. And all I'm going to do is just make sure that it's using the right paper. And now here is the technology. This AccuPhoto HG. This is the magic.
This is the secret sauce.
This is the secret sauce. And Epson has been working with, I believe they work. Oh, I don't want to say because I'm not absolutely sure. I might be wrong.
Oh,
but I thought it was the Rochester Institute that developed.
I thought it was elves.
Well, I think it's elves at Rochester.
Oh, okay.
Is the way
I
that
heard
works.
there's actually a lot of them there.
Yeah. So at any rate, so this is the secret sauce. And then I usually pick on the color controls. I usually still go Adobe RGB because for me it seems a little truer than the Epson Vivid.
Interesting.
Epson Vivid is pretty darn vivid.
It's vivid.
Yeah, I mean it's like
eye-popping.
It's like Velvia for those of you that remember the film days.
Right.
And then Best Photo gives you high quality, but it's a nice middle ground between print time because you don't want to wait 3 hours for the shot. And then Photo RPM, that's we're going to wait a while. We don't. We're
Photo
live.
RPM. This is the last time I'm going to print this.
Yeah.
I'm going to leave it. How long would like a photo like this take to print?
It probably only about 4 or 5 minutes with Photo RPM.
Okay.
We should come out in about 2 or 3 minutes here. We'll start your timers. Now we send it off. So Aperture or whatever your application is going to prepare the image according to specification, hands it off to the print driver. Now we're live. So, I mean, this is really crazy when you think about doing printing
never
live.
do things live.
No, this is,
you know better now.
This is so. But we have a couple things that. Oh, that's a good sound. That's a good sound. One of the things that Epson and Mikkel and I were talking about is one of the things that is fun about this printer is that it has Wi-Fi built in, which we're used to on our multifunctional printers, right? But we haven't. Now we have it on the photo printer.
Yeah.
So anywhere in the office, anywhere in the
anywhere you can go.
I was saying I was looking for a USB cord.
Right.
And the longest you can do on a USB is I think 5 meters, which is about 16 feet.
Right.
So that's it. I mean,
And that's not a good look, walking around with the long USB cord.
No, I don't like it, especially when it goes right across the hallway and everybody trips.
Low on style points. Low on style points.
I love this, the Wi-Fi part.
Yeah. It has 8 cartridges. It's the Epson High Gloss. So these prints that we're making are good for about 50 years.
That's pretty good.
If you take, it's not bad at all.
And that's good.
And
like,
the black
in
and
general,
whites are
yes, I mean,
longer.
and longer.
Yeah.
And that's how would we compare that to when we were printing film? Like printing, like actually printing on
paper. So it
on
depended
chemical, photochemical process.
It depended on the, Cibachrome, for example, had a very long longevity. Almost, they called it archival.
Right.
But the other ones weren't so archival.
And not only that, part of it was how good were you in the processing, right? I mean, did you fully wash all the fixer off the print? I mean, all those kind of things had where I think this is a more consistent process here.
It's definitely more consistent than when I was in the dark room. It was,
even with your earlier printers too, your earlier inkjet printers, because you could hold those up to the light and almost watch them fade in front of you.
Right.
10 years ago.
Oh, they were terrible.
It was bad.
Those were tough. I mean, I was just thinking the other day, the early days of digital photography were rough because I have this gap in my photography from about 2000 to 2002, 2003, where I was trying to embrace digital, and I shot way too much digital, and it's horrible and small and not good.
Although when I look at my archives, you can see when I bought a 20D. The 20D? Canon 20D?
10D was the first one.
Or not,
the
sorry,
10D is the first
D70
one.
was actually the first digital camera I had, like real digital camera. I had lots of little ones.
D100 was
Yeah,
the first one I bought,
Right.
it was really like you could use
you could use
camera.
it, you know, and
6
I mean, I had lots of
megapixels.
little ones. I had lots of little cameras before that, you know, little
me too.
Casios and
The
Maticas.
Olympus,
and
remember the Olympus? That's what we were all using
Yeah.
in the 90s.
and my little and I had Polaroid had one that looked like a little spaceship. And
Okay,
look at that.
well, that was quick.
Wow.
Derrick.
Not
That
bad.
Derrick, or-
Not bad. This is
it's-
11 by 14. We're printing 11
And
by
you did
14.
that wireless, right? Or you hooked
No,
up USB?
no, I hooked USB.
Can you do FireWire
I'm
too?
crazy, but I'm not insane.
Can you do FireWire?
No.
It's only USB.
It's USB
2,
or wireless.
USB 2.
Yes.
And wireless.
Yeah.
And it's-
and
and it's-
Ethernet.
and it's
and
full
Ethernet
bleed.
also.
Oh, so you can network it.
Yes.
Hardwired network.
Yeah.
and it's full bleed, so it's going all the way
Full bleed.
all the way off.
Absolutely.
Derrick, can you do 16-bit on this, or is it only 8-bit?
No, I believe you can do 16.
You can do 16?
Yes,
like-
yes.
okay.
If you
Well,
like
if you have a
really
Mac- if you
really
have a
big
Mac,
files.
If
Yeah.
you have a Mac.
Yeah.
I don't think that's available yet for the Windows.
And the cartridges. Now, this printer. By the way, this printer, Mikkel. Guess how much this printer costs?
This is at
This
least
is our
$600
this is our
at
QVC
least
part of our
six-
show here.
At least $600.
You know, I think you could probably find it on the street for $550,
600.
but not here tonight.
For you. Wait. I think I even have. If you,
We're not selling this, by the way.
we're not. No,
simply-
we make no. We're
We
just
don't get a
having-
cut.
And we, yeah, by the way, we should, in all fairness, let everyone know that Epson is not paying for this
No.
episode.
No.
I don't even
They
have
are-
one of these printers, but if they want to
So
give me one.
If they want to send one to us, we would love to have one. But we brought this because Derrick likes it.
It is really because for my audience, look at this right here. 300 now on the Epson site, $349.
Yeah, but they're out of stock.
Well, you have to
That's
get
'cause it's
mine.
$349.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, how much? Okay, one of the questions is, of course, it's fine to have a printer that's $349.
Right.
How much is the ink?
Ink.
How much is the ink?
$349.
It comes with a free printer.
Throw it away when you're done.
So how much is a if you have to reset all of the ink? How much is that cartridge?
About $15.
Again, how many are there?
There's
So
8.
it's like 90.
There's
90
8. Well, no,
eight
no,
times
80.
15.
No, 80. That's my math.
No. I've been finding it online for about $125 for a full set of 8. For a full set of 8. And
how many prints do you get
But
from there?
the normal price is $149 for a set.
So 125 to 149.
Yes, depending on
And
your
how many prints are you
level
gonna
of comfort.
Right.
Well, I did. You know what I mean? Because
You know what I mean? Wink, wink, nod, nod.
no, I mean
There's a lot of places that you can get ink, and a lot of places
at
where ink comes
125 a set you get this. At 149 a set
Oh,
you
the
get
box.
this.
from. Wait, how much?
No, he
What's
said
this? How mu-
this, you don't get the nice box when
You don't get the
it for
nice
cheaper.
box and you pay 125.
Yeah, but you're saving all those trees. So
Yeah, and I keep I always wonder. This looks real, to kind of do that. But I've tested it, and so far it's been pretty
fine.
good. It's been pretty
And
good.
how many prints do you get out of a set?
I do 13 by 19 only. I mean, we're only doing 11 by 14 here because I didn't want to wait too long. And Mikkel asked me that earlier, and I get about a stack of 13 by 19s
now
about
you're
like
really
that.
getting precise. In other
Because it
words,
depends on so many. Because the ink cartridges don't run out at the same rate.
Right.
Like I run out of cyan first always, and I run out of red last.
Interesting.
So it's
depends on what
Depends on what kind of
pictures
shooter
you're
you are.
shooting,
And
what kind of paper too.
Yeah,
Yes,
exactly.
all those sort of things. But
paper
now,
sheet.
for those of you that know anything about Epson printers, this one is the upgrade for the 1900, the R1900. which is,
Not the 2400.
no, completely different ink
I
set.
don't quite get
no,
this.
this is the ultra the high gloss
Okay.
ultra chrome,
Got it.
and the R2400, R2800. They're the K3.
Okay.
So this is a color printer in my mind. I've tested it with black and white. It's good, but it's not great. I mean, the R2400, R2800, 30, the on up that line that has a K3, I think is better for black and white.
But this is good for black and white. You can do
Very good for black and white.
Right.
And one of the nice things is, those of you that have used some of the older Epson printers, the matte cartridge and the photogloss cartridge, they're in here, and you don't have to switch them out. It does auto switching
figures that out.
between. Yeah,
depending on what you have set up.
it does that for you.
A couple questions here. Now, by the way, if you're watching and you have questions, of course, what you want to do is go to the go up to there's a button on one of these sides. I can't remember which side it is for me, but so you go to the button and it says if you want to ask questions, and then you can go in there, log in, ask questions, vote the questions up and down. We have a couple about the streams. We'll answer them really, really quickly. Flash alternatives, we were hoping to have that done this week. It'll probably be ready for next week. So we'll have you can watch it on your iPad. You can watch it on Photon, I guess, is a place you can watch the stream. Paper and quality. This is it's what? Skyfire. So if you want to watch it on your iPad, but hopefully next week. We were testing it yesterday, and it was so close. Just a little choppiness. We're working on it. Paper and quality. What paper are you using, and how much ink will it use? Can you buy different? And it just disappeared. Carolyn, did you do that, or did that just do it on its own?
I think I got the. I think I can start out with the answer.
Okay. Yeah. More disappeared.
There are two types of paper that I like. One is Epson makes very good paper.
So you're doing this is for the glossy.
I like Epson gloss a lot. I think it's really nice stuff, and we have here. And now remember this printer that we didn't talk about, but it has the gloss optimizer. So it actually it puts a protective coat over the image.
Does it make it last longer?
It does, and it also makes it so you can handle it.
Right.
So you can handle it. And it saturates the colors a little bit more.
The blacks just look a lot richer.
Yeah, the blacks are very nice.
I think that's the big thing that jumps out for me.
And then the other paper that I like to use, there's a wider variety, and it also comes at a very good price, is Red River paper. And they're out of Texas. They're out of Texas, and there's no middleman on Red River. So those are the two stocks that I love using. And then in terms of the ink, you're always with Epson ink, right? That's just the way that rolls. And then it depends on, like what we were talking, there are a lot of variables depending on how fast you go through ink, but I can get at least one box of 13 by 19 for one set of cartridges is the way it kind of works out. And the cartridges are not bad. Epson says these are 50% larger, or more capacity than the R1900, which is the one that it replaces. So they're trying to bring us up in the big boy, bill with the more pro printers.
Very good. And that was one of the questions that Vince Bauer had, was asking about how many before replacing, so we've already answered that. There are some specs that Mike Loiterman put up on the Epson, so if you can click on that if you need to. And so if you have other questions, make sure to post them. It can be questions about the printer. It can also be questions about photography. We've got some experts here, so you want to ask the questions now. So go up to the question area and ask away. So now is the setup for gloss any different than the setup for matte? How does that actually work?
You know what? It's not. And the only difference would be if I wanted to do gloss, I would start out with a glossy paper, of course. Now, here's one thing about Epson paper, bless their hearts, sometimes. There's quite a process to get to the paper itself. You have to.
They really get you working.
You really have to want to print. But we'll go ahead and pull a sheet out here. I'll just get this out of the way. So now we're going to do the same shot, and so we're just going to drop that puppy in here.
I guess, Derrick, you already talked about this, but just to reiterate what you said earlier, that there's a difference really
I'll pull it out
on the sharpening side of things between glossy and the matte.
Yes.
And that with the Lightroom and what's the name of the program you were using?
It's called Aperture.
Yes. It looked like you could.
It's called Aperture.
You could actually control the sharpening, and you want to add more sharpening if you're working with a matte paper, right?
More sharpening for matte, a little bit less for glossy, because the dot doesn't spread as much. Right. So, like for instance, if we're going to print glossy now, so I'm probably going to back off the sharpening just a bit here. So maybe I usually go about half as much. And we'll leave everything else the same. So now I'll put this in, so not to drive the camera guys too crazy for too long. And we'll hit print. And now I'm not going to save this because now here's where the difference is, Alex. So now we're going to go here to print settings, and we're just going to choose, our paper right here, and we're just make sure that we're choosing the glossy. And then let's go Epson Vivid. What the heck, right? Yeah. Let's pull that. Now you see I have Gloss Optimizer checked here. So that's an option. So we're going to check.
Is that a cartridge?
It's a cartridge.
Okay, so it's another cartridge.
It's another. It's part of the 8. It's part of the 8.
It's part of the 8. Okay.
All right. So you have 7 colors and then 1 gloss optimizer.
Okay. And you don't have to apply that optimizer.
You don't have to.
Okay.
But it's so much fun that it's I can't help it. I have to. Now Epson knows you're going to go through them fast, so when you buy the Glop optimizer.
Well, I'd like to optimize the Glop.
But when you buy it, they actually put 2 in the box because think about it. Because on the inks you're using a little bit of cyan, a little bit of
you're covering the whole thing. Yeah.
Sure. Now I read somewhere that the way that works is that it's not actually covering the whole thing. It's covering the areas
selectively. The highlights.
Yes.
Probably going to the highlights.
Yeah.
So a little bit more here, a little less there.
Well, wherever it needs it, so that you end up with what they consider like what feels like a photographic finish, so that it's consistent. So there's magic there.
Another question from Mike Loiterman. He said, "Can you go through the setup you would normally do on Aperture again?"
Oh sure. You mean we'll go right into the print dialog box.
Is that and that's what once you get this set up, you're just going through the print image. There's no preferences. You're not changing anything in Aperture.
Well, what's interesting about Aperture is see all of these here. These are all presets. We have all these.
You made those, right?
I made those. Yeah. You start out with a basic, a basic preset for a single print and all that, but then you customize it. And one of the first things that you have to do is that you have to choose your printer. So in this case, we're using the R2000 USB. You see that I have the Wi-Fi. That's what I usually use in the studio. But here, because I'm not crazy, we're going USB. You choose your paper. Now, Aperture is picking these up from the print driver, right? These options come to us via the print driver. Landscape, all of that. That's pretty basic stuff. Fitting margins. If you want margins, you can set those up. Now, here's the thing that people just they can't believe it's this easy. We used to have to do this.
Right.
You had to load those.
And you feel like you gotta do all. Get that all set up.
Like it's too easy. And I start out with printer managed. And if I don't like the results for some reason, then I'll go into those ICC profiles. But now the technology has changed, so I just go to printer managed. I let the resolution be auto. I'm shooting big files, so I got plenty of resolution, but you can set yourself. And then you have some custom adjustments here. Now, these are sort of important, which is why I'm glad you asked this question. Sharpening. Remember, we're talking about sharpening. Our mutual friend, Katrine Eisman, who I admire a lot, she did one of the best talks on sharpening I've seen, which is there are 3 points of sharpening. When the raw file's first being converted in the camera, there's some sharpening that's applied there. Process sharpening. And then sharpening while you're image editing, which is your sharpening, right, to taste.
Cosmetic.
Right. But then there's output sharpening, which is only applied to the print job. And the theory behind output sharpening is that you don't want to go back and sharpen your image for matte paper and then have to go back and sharpen your image for...
You don't want to leave that in the...
Yeah. Right. So what you do, you just choose the setting that you want for the type of paper that you have. And as we talked about before, more output sharpening for matte, a little bit less for glossy. So that's nice because that's in the printer.
And this is still doing, you see from a mountain radius, it's doing unsharp mask.
Right.
And if you really want to get sophisticated, you know that sharpening will depend on the size of the paper you're printing to, too.
Right.
So because obviously if it's a larger piece of paper, you're going to do a different amount of sharpening. If it's a smaller size print. And also, if you really want to get sophisticated...
Sharpening is something that is also debatable on all points.
I got a feeling we're going to go there in a second. But Nick Sharpener, for example, the plug-in for Photoshop, right? That also takes into account the viewing distance between you or the viewer and the print. In their equation for print. So you could really get it very deep into
People have written whole books on this very subject.
Bruce Fraser's book is a classic.
That's right.
I always think the first step when I do Photoshop classes, the first thing that I do is I teach everyone how to build their own unsharp mask with layers, because it's just like one of those things that is just a great way for you to understand like what it's actually doing, and then once you understand, then you understand why the rings occur, why all the when you actually put that stuff together. So it's anything else as far as the setup there?
No, I think that's pretty much it. I mean, you can do things like you can add some metadata, have that part of it. You can even add a watermark. There are things, but the real thing to remember is that this only is for this print job, and then you save it as a template.
And then where do you save it?
All you have to do is just
the little
right down here. Save as preset.
Perfect.
Or duplicate.
So this is you're talking about this is an Aperture dialog you're looking at now. This is not I think
But Lightroom has a very similar dialogue.
And
that,
Photoshop would have its own dialogue as well.
Yeah.
But that's a little different.
Yeah, the Photoshop one's.
Yeah, it's a little bit harder to work with.
Sorry, I like the Lightroom better than the.
Well,
than
Photoshop's
the
really
Photoshop.
meant for one print at a time.
Yeah.
And Lightroom and Aperture are more workflow oriented.
Yeah.
But the point is that you're going from here, you're making certain settings here in this dialogue, and then going to the print driver.
It's handed off.
And you've handed off, and that's why there are those two screens.
Exactly.
And it's important to keep the difference there. They are different.
Yeah. So when we hit print, it'll bring us up. We won't save this. We'll just go to the next screen.
Right.
Now we're
in the printer world.
Now we're in the print world, and here you don't have to do very much, other than this one dialog box here, where you just make a few. But
these are critical settings.
They are, because if you're printing on glossy, you don't really want to choose, matte paper, because that would
look right.
That'd be kind of bad. That would be an unfortunate output, and you don't want to waste ink, because we talked about
expensive.
It's expensive.
So it's still. I mean, have you calculated with the cost of the paper and the ink about what a print like this is costing you out of pocket?
Well, it's funny. I haven't done the math per print, but I do know how much ink costs me basically $140 a set, right? And I know a box of paper is going to be like $40 or something like that. So there's 25 sheets,
right?
In there, so you can divide that all out.
$2 to $3.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks for investing in our little show here.
Yeah, this is the love that I like to give to the TWIP audience. But really, I don't think that you print at home or in your studio to save money. That's my honest opinion. I think you print at home to get the results that you want. I think it's the control.
Well, and the reality is, if you're going to get this kind of quality print, you're going to spend a lot of money. Mm-hmm. It's going to be a lot more than whatever the print cost is if you're going to take it somewhere, because you're not going to do this at.
You mean someplace else? Yeah.
You're not. A lot of times, you're not going to get this quality of print at, at just the average.
Yeah. You can get good prints for good prices. Mm-hmm. The problem is, you send off your job and then you wait for it to come back and you go, oh gosh, I wish it, there was a little less magenta.
Right. Right.
Instead of making that decision.
And you had to wait too for it to come back.
You have to wait. Yeah. So here's the thing that I feel about printing is that it completes the cycle of craftsmanship. I took the shot, I edited the shot, and then I made the print.
Right.
And you have so much more control over the medium itself, what paper you use.
Exactly.
You've talked about two papers that you like, but there's so many
other
other
there are so many. There's so many good
papers. You
papers.
can print on canvas.
Yes.
I assume you can print on canvas for this.
This one you can buy. I'm glad you brought that up, Mikkel. We didn't even plan this.
This
is the connection that we have with each other.
Wait till we start fighting.
Yeah, exactly.
We're both Gemini. Did you know that? So
if I had known.
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
You're giving away our secrets.
Yeah.
there.
That's right. But you can print on canvas. You can print on DVD. They have a DVD adapter.
How does that front work when it's framed?
The DVD?
Like put it in a frame? Does it have a black frame? And
it's really
round frame.
Yeah, a little round frame. It's really beautiful. And then, does anyone actually use DVDs
What is this
anymore?
thing that you talk of? DVD.
It
has a roll film adapter.
I
It has a roll
printed
paper.
a cover for a DVD once.
Did you?
Yeah, once.
Yeah.
And
then you realize no one's
I'm never
actually
doing
gonna
this
watch
again.
This. Yeah, exactly.
I don't mess around.
You don't
with
even use
that.
DVDs
No,
anymore.
I don't. I really don't. I have to say. But the roll film thing is nice because
does
Then you can
roll
make it as
film?
long as you want.
yeah,
can do
roll
a
paper.
roll on this thing?
Roll paper, so you can do panoramas. Oh,
That.
That's pretty special.
Yeah, do a little panorama action.
Ooh.
Yeah.
And part of it is I think my fear is if I got a printer like this, it would get very expensive because as soon as I start printing, it's kind of like why I don't have any tattoos. Because if I get one tattoo, I know that I have like sleeves all the way down.
I feel the same way about piercings,
Yeah, exactly. Once you go down that path, I know I'd have too much fun.
I hear you, Alex, but I got to say, when you walk up to somebody and you've made a print just for them, and you hand it to them, and watch what happens with their face when they look at it. Assuming it's a good picture, of course. And I assume it would be if it was from you. But it doesn't matter how much it costs. Well, of course, within reason it does. But there's something magical that happens.
No, there
It's like sending a handwritten note back when I could write.
Yes.
So the questions here. Chris Tuttle is asking, cleaning clogged inkjet nozzles. Is there a way to clean clogged inkjet nozzles without using the expensive production ink? Are there special inkjet solvents one can swap in to do the cleaning?
Unfortunately.
Well, now he must be talking about older
Maybe
printer?
it's an older.
Well,
Maybe it's an older.
you still clean the. You do a cleaning mode on that, right?
Yeah, there's a cleaning
And that
mode.
costs you a fortune.
It's software driven.
Yeah.
You know, so you put a piece of paper, and it does cost you some ink, right?
Costs you, a lot of ink, actually.
How often do you do it?
I don't. I mean,
Right. You haven't had that
rarely.
problem. Is it something you do if you're having trouble?
Yeah. If it, you know when you run into it is when you haven't printed for a long time.
Or you've used the wrong bad ink. You know?
Oh, if you bad ink. Oh man, bad ink. Oh man, I got
that
some
can
bad
do it.
ink. Yeah, that's not good. But I've only been using this for like 3 months, and
And you haven't.
no, and I do printing marathons. So when I'm going to print, it's just like I know in the morning it's going to be a printing day.
Do you brew some special tea?
I do.
And you have some little scones?
I do. I got the
I
whole.
really have to have scones.
It's the whole thing, and then the room becomes a disaster, right? Because you got open boxes of paper, and you got prints, and so it's devastation day also. And then you have some mindless work to do, right? Because you really feel like an idiot about 4 hours into it, where you're just staring at the printer while it's you go. I really need to be doing something else with my time right now.
But you can't do something that's too much of a distraction.
Right. Exactly.
Because
So
then that's when it clogs up or jams up.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
The minute you take your eye off
I think
it.
paper jams, to his question, I think paper jams are a bigger problem for me than nozzle
Nozzles,
clogging.
Paper
Yeah.
jams are.
Yeah.
Where and I haven't had any with this one. Every now and then I like the R2400 also for my black and white printing.
Yeah.
I get some paper issues with
Yeah,
that
me
every now and then.
Yeah, I have the 3800 and I have some trouble now.
Yeah. Sometimes you feel like there's a magic way on those older printers.
There are.
Like,
There is.
You have to put it in just right, and then you go.
It can't
"Whoa."
buckle too much. this way or that way.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, gallery. This is from Vince Bauer. I print for gallery shows from time to time, 13 by 19 and greater.
Nice.
I find that some printers just can't get the quality of color and clarity with the large prints. Does this printer degrade with any increase in paper size? And what are the drawbacks or limitations of this unit?
Well, 13 by 19 is the first limitation that you're going to run into. So for him, the size might not be big enough. So this is more for folks that want to print at that level. The archival rating on these images isn't quite as high as with the K3 ink set, which is the other Ultrachrome set, right? And well, there's a couple now. They have the HD. I mean, Epson's got a couple ink sets. So, you're only looking about 50, 80 years on the color print. So that, for gallery, that may be a drawback for some people.
That could be a problem.
And then there's another thing that drives some people crazy. And when you what does it call it, where you kind of show the angle and you can see where
The bronzing?
Yeah, the bronzing. That's it. Yeah. But now I'm not seeing any
I think the coating actually that you're
I don't
talking,
see any bronzing
I think that's
here.
what that's doing. It's,
I don't.
That special coating that you're talking about.
I'm not seeing any bronzing on. So I guess.
Now, what would the bronzing look like? For the
it looks like a looks like a little bronze
like a
metal.
metallic
sheen.
sheen.
like there isn't the real image there, and
Right.
we're not seeing any. I'm not seeing any bronzing on this. So that would be a plus for him.
Right.
So I would say mainly size.
But the negative,
Mainly
that's
size.
a good, I mean, besides the size limitation, archival, slightly less.
If he does a lot of black and white,
The
I would.
speed
Did
is,
something go
I would
a
go
little
with
further.
something else.
the speed is comparable to the other
Speed's
units.
good.
Yeah, the speed's good.
Speed's good. Yeah.
So
Yeah. Now, when I'm set up in my printing Maven cave man room, I have
I need one of those.
It's so cool. This one's doing color, and the R2400 is doing my black and white. And so that's I have run black and white through here, and I like it, but I don't love it.
Once you have something that to compare it to, you got it. Yeah. So the another question here: how do you prepare the canvas to be printed on? Is there anything you have to do?
I don't do canvas
I
printing.
haven't done canvas.
Do you do
So this can, but you haven't done it.
I haven't done it.
Yeah. It would be
I-
special
it-
canvas.
it
It,
seems-
wouldn't be,
yeah,
you wouldn't just go cut something out.
Actually, that's a good
I was
question.
thinking of going down to the coffee store. and
Do
getting
you
a
have to
little
like
piece-
just like
cutting a little piece of
hold
canvas.
it?
Yeah,
I don't know how that works actually. But that's a great question. I wish I
Something
knew
we
the
should-
answer.
something we'll have to test.
Yeah, we'll have to look into that.
Let's see, Pro Photo Prints. This is from Shane Smith. He said, is this the printer to use to sell as professional quality? Would you use it for wedding photos or a photo that you would put into a contest? Would a 5 megabyte digital image render a good 8x10 or 11x14? So there's that's a packed question.
There's a lot of questions there.
So, but the first one, would you use it to sell as professional quality?
I would be fine with that.
Okay.
Yes.
Would you use it for wedding photos?
Remember, there's something to the taking the picture part of it.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
Would you use it for wedding photos?
Well, not in mass. Not in, like if I'm doing a proof book, no, I send that out. So I only print big prints at home. If there's quantity, I'm sending that out. Because to me, that's crazy making.
Yeah. Would you, or a photo that you would put into a contest?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
and
I
the
would.
5
megapixel digital image render a good 8x10 or 11x14.
As we all know, it's not just the megapixels.
It's not the printer at that point, yeah.
But it's not megapixels. Yeah, it's not the.
So how many dots do you need?
Well, it's not 5 meg. Remember, we used to say that the 6 megapixel cameras were good enough. They were 35 millimeter film equivalent.
That's when we had was 6 megapixels.
But then we learned that it had a lot more to do than just the number of pixels. It had to do with the optics of the camera, the processing quality. So it really opens up a can of worms when you say, is 5 enough? I mean, what does it mean? What is the quality of those 5?
Yeah, I mean, I don't like to go below, personally for my printing, I don't like to go below 240 dots per inch. That's the resolution, that's sort of my baseline. Right. And so for a 5 megapixel image, I think I'd be okay at 8x10, but not 11x14. I'm not sure though. I actually do the math in Photoshop or something to check that out.
Or you just try it.
Yeah. I mean, there's always looking at it, isn't there?
Yeah, looking at it.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah,
that's just crazy.
You may be surprised at the quality.
The question from Brian Dodds. He said, "What about Canon printers? I've had very bad luck with Epson. I don't know why, Brian."
So sorry to hear that.
And good luck with Canon. Have you used Canon print?
I have. I actually I like Canon printers a lot. I think they've really come along. They came into the game later than Epson, and they had some catching up to do. But I think the current batch of Canon printers are quite good.
Yeah. They're all getting pretty good.
And
this is a great. I mean, I think this is one of the.
The HP Pro line was pretty good too for a while.
It was, and
where we're at now.
And then something
is HP
happened.
still around? Oh,
yeah. Careful.
Love
HP.
Their multifunctions are fantastic. HP's multifunctions are good.
Yeah. So we're running low on questions. If you've got a question here, then make sure to go into the question area, ask a question. You can vote them up and down. We've been getting a nice string here, and maybe we're just at the end of the question.
Well, yeah, and one thing that'd be interesting, those of you that haven't asked a question yet, is do you print? And if you don't print, why? I mean, I'd be curious. I'd be curious. I'd be kind of curious to hear that.
Go up here.
Yeah, if you print. That's one thing, but if you don't print, why don't you print? And because we've sort of had that conversation.
I wrote it off. I mean, the bottom line, and this has gotten me, I have to admit that Carlita's probably looking at that going, don't do it. But this has got me thinking, I need a printer to start, because I had enough high-end printers that I just wasn't really happy with, that I just kind of went, you know what? And I have millions of photos, that are there, and I just, maybe I.
So while we're waiting to see what people say about that, so I sort of have this philosophy thing. It's short. You'll be happy to hear a short philosophy thing.
Wait, hold on.
That a lot of our images aren't getting off our digital devices that we take. So what I've been advocating is just make 6 to 12 prints a year. 6 to 12 nice prints.
The best.
Your best stuff, your favorite stuff. Because what will happen is over a series of years, then you'll actually have a pretty nice little box of prints or a portfolio of prints or something that regardless what happens to any of your digital devices, regardless of what happens to anything, you have...
It's an archiving
strategy.
It's an archiving strategy.
I have to admit, one thing that I do, which is not one thing I've done that isn't necessarily an archiving strategy, but I have gotten into the habit of making books.
Well,
in Aperture, it's so easy that you just go in there and just go, I think I'm going to make a book out of this. And I have to admit that I sleep a lot less than my wife. And so we were in St. Martin, and so I'd be up 2 or 3 hours
Making
before
books.
her, and I would take all the photos I took the day before, and I made a book. You know, I just kept on adding pages.
Good.
And so I built this whole thing while we were there.
Yeah.
And as soon as we landed in Charlotte or whatever, I uploaded the book from the airport.
Yeah.
And like 2 days after we get back to San Francisco, there's a book of our trip to
Isn't
St.
that
Martin.
amazing?
And I got to tell you, she used to be this thing like, oh, I don't want you to take any photos, and oh, why are you pulling the camera out? And then from then on, it was like she was, you know, big mugs for the camera and everything else, because it was something real that occurred and something that she could enjoy and show other people, and it really made a huge difference.
And I think books definitely qualify for what we're talking about here, because again, you're committing to paper. You know, you
it's
probably,
so much fun. It is
you
something
probably
about
tried
it.
to do a nice job with you know, you go, oh, I need to crop that image a little bit more. You know,
little color correction.
color
You know,
correction.
and when you're doing it inside of your photo editor, it's so easy because you can sit there and look at it and make adjustments, and you have all that control, and everything's all just kind of built into that whole system.
Yeah.
So it's
and what application did you use again for that?
Aperture.
Oh,
Which service was that? The Apple service?
I just use samples. You know, it's one of those things. Like I need to go around and start testing them. Like take the same book or try to build the same book in every one. But I have to say the Apple ones have been pretty darn good.
enough,
You know, and not. I wouldn't say that they're they don't look like what I buy in the bookstore. For those of you who are wondering, bookstores were this place where people used to go they would buy the paper versions of the things that you have on the Kindle. It was crazy. I mean, it was like they would take ink and they would push it against dead trees. It was crazy.
yeah.
Anyway, so
It had this wonderful smell too. I mean, there's nothing like a bookstore smell.
yeah, exactly.
That was mold.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Digital frames. Is it possible that digital frames are becoming more popular? Oh yeah. And so less need of printers. This is
called
Carolyn
iPads.
Stamping.
It's a great question.
More and more people do exactly what I do, which is, you know, I thought I was being revolutionary. And it turns out that everybody I talk to that has an Apple TV 2, number one use for the Apple TV 2
Showing
is
your
not
slide,
watching movies or anything else. It's simply plain, because you got this 46 or 50 inch or 60-inch LCD that's sitting in your living room, and you let that thing just kind of roll, you know, roll through your kids' photos or your family photos or your vacation photos.
It's just a different experience. I mean, this is what we're exploring here is the multiple uses of photography.
Yeah.
And it's not like one is necessarily better than the other, or there's any exclusivity.
Yeah.
It's just there's a time and a place for
I agree.
the monitor and a time for the print.
And I also like the iPad a lot for, and I use an application for the iPad called Minimal Folio. And it's fantastic. It is a fantastic portfolio experience. You can shape it the way that you want, and then you can hand it to somebody. You can lock it down, hand it to somebody, and then they can experience it, hold it at the angle they want, and you know, your stuff looks good.
Yeah.
Your stuff looks very good. So
at that size, I mean, and that's the other thing. We're talking, get back to the printer. If you want to get to these bigger sizes that are portable, you can't carry one of these 42-inch plasma screens around, right?
Yeah.
So, but you know, the prints themselves can get into these larger sizes, and that's when I think it gets very interesting.
well, it's also there's a bit of you know where you get to show your stuff too. It's one thing to have a little image on a web page, right?
Yeah.
You
Or
can get
an
away
iPad.
with a lot of stuff there.
Yeah.
It's another thing to be able to make a 13
yeah.
by 19 inch image of that and have it hold up.
Yeah.
You know, that's people go, oh, well, you know, that took a little something.
Yeah. No, absolutely. This is from Shane Smith. This is answering our question. So there's a question that answers our question. Why I don't print.
Yeah. I'm dying to hear
So he
this.
said, my friends or customers have all wanted photos on a disc. They put the photos on photo viewers or on their laptops. I still print, but catch hell from the wife when I go near the wall. I haven't found a printer yet. Oh, it just moved. Hold on. I haven't found a printer yet, though, that I can afford to use. So this might be the answer for that. Really, I mean, I am amazed.
Hitting his,
I am amazed at the quality of these photos on a printer at that price. So this is now Fred Hauser said, I just got an Epson 1400 today. Really. For prints, I might sell. What paper would you recommend? Stick with Epson paper, or are there viable alternatives? So if you're going to sell the prints, what would you use?
If you're going to sell the prints, I would use Epson paper, and I'm totally sold on Red River. I've been working with them for a long time, so I'm biased.
Right.
You know, so I got to fess up there. But I love it, and I print on all sorts of different stock. Either one I've had great luck with.
My favorite paper is the Epson. Is it called traditional photo paper? Mm-hmm. They have a different name here. In Europe, I think it was called traditional photo paper. That has a kind of a fiber-based feel, just like the original traditional photo. I love that paper. It costs more.
The cotton papers feel fantastic.
It's a great one.
I could just get excited by holding.
You know
the
where I
print.
found you can get Epson paper fairly reasonable is Costco. Believe it or not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they might not have what you want.
Yeah. Exactly. That's another problem. But you get a lot of it for cheap.
I do feel like printing presentation mat today.
Yeah. 200 rolls of toilet paper.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Brian Dodds said, ink cost. I don't print due to the cost of ink.
Yeah.
He said, I print at Costco and get much better quality than anything I would get at home, and it's on real photo paper.
I think your point was a really good point about that. When you're printing small, go to an outside service.
Yes.
You just can't beat, what is it, 5 cents a 3x5?
Whatever it is these days.
Nothing. They give it's like free. And you try to even come close to that when you're printing on your own printer, you can't cost what. But when you get into the larger custom prints, that's when you start to see the reason or the rationale for having these kind of printers on your desktop.
Yeah, his point's a good one. You're not printing yourself to save money. Not this day and age. I mean, there might have been a time and place, but then we didn't like what came out of the printer. So, so you're not. Although it's more affordable now because you're getting more what you want on the first print than you used to. But I think you're printing to get what you want. And the only part that I would dispute is that I feel like I get better quality at home through my printers than when I send out, unless you're doing a custom job with a quality lab, and that's different.
And you're paying a lot of money. You're paying $100.
Yeah, you're paying for that. But I feel like I have more control. So but we like hearing this. I mean, we don't want to hear it to dispute it. We want to hear it because we love it. We love it.
Industry advancements. This is from Chris Tuttle. What's on the horizon? What do you see as the next big thing? Is the innovation technology flattening out?
In printing? Are we talking about printing, you think?
That's a good question.
That's a very good question. I think the one thing they had to address, they're doing better now, which is what you see on your screen comes out of the printer. That was the thing that had to happen. That was so miserable for so long.
And it was always, you'd be calibrating the screen, you'd be calibrating this thing, and then you'd have to build your workflow so that you would, and it was really a lot of.
So they had to solve that, and I think now they have for the most part. So what's next?
Well, the archival, they've taken care of a lot of that too. That was a big deal.
Yeah.
Well, now, what is considered archival?
I think you should lower the price of the ink. Well, that's what I want next.
Yeah, that's economic. There's two parts to this equation. What kind of technology are we going to be seeing down the line? I think that as people realize that, I think big will be better, and we'll see bigger printers with larger capacity, because you can get small prints pretty easy, and you need to differentiate. People always want to differentiate from professionals always want to differentiate from someone who's not.
Absolutely.
So one way you can differentiate is by having large prints. And then that's where panoramas come in too, the ability to make beautiful panoramas. Anything that you can do that somebody else can't do, you're going to see that space where a lot of interesting printer innovation will take place.
And then I think, e-printing, where the printers can talk to multiple devices, like you could see an image on your iPad
and just go print, and it just shows up.
It just shows up.
That should happen.
I have to admit, as soon as I saw this, I was also thinking, could I print from anywhere? Could I be in Africa and print off of this?
And you can. And that technology, HP's embraced that technology.
It's not on this yet.
Not on this one. No.
I mean, I could VPN in, or I could burrow in and print out of it from as it showing up.
But with the HP,
not simple.
With the HP, and I think others have it too. So you could be at a hotel room. I mean, this not too far away. You could be at a hotel room, and if they have an e-printer downstairs, you could just send your document from your iPad, go downstairs and get it.
That's great.
Your iPad would find that printer downstairs in the business office of the hotel.
Derrick, what do you know about 3D printing?
I don't know a lot, but
that's another area.
But I'm fascinated, and Epson is definitely embracing that, and I have looked at some of the images. interesting.
See, I mean, that's definitely something that would.
Yeah.
If you could print a beautiful 3D image.
That's always that's never good.
Yeah.
That's never good.
Well,
is it red blue or is it?
No, it's developing, right?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what they're trying to do is so you don't need any thing.
It's just like in this.
Yeah, it's just got more depth.
More.
Yeah.
No, I
like those postcards. You've seen those 3D postcards you can buy. They're
you put them up.
No, not with the glasses.
No. Well, I've seen ones where they kind of fold up and you can get them into just the right.
Yeah.
No, they're just they're printed on a fairly thick material which has kind of a prism coating on it. Substrate and.
But 3D in general, I think, is an interesting subject.
Oh,
whether we're talking about
I gotta say,
output
we've done a fair bit of research in 3D, photography, video, everything. Not so much printing, but playback. This is a 3D TV actually, so it's part of the R&D.
That's why it looks fuzzy.
And and what I find is that when it works, it's so mesmerizing. You're like, wow, it just sticks out. But that almost always is two cameras that are really synced up, that are really connected, that are set up exactly right. And I find that it's better to do stuff like more documentary or experience-driven stuff. So what I find really great to look at in 3D is an artist working on something or playing an instrument like a band. I'd rather see a concert in 3D, not a U2 concert. But like if we were in this room and we had someone playing and we were doing it in 3D, like to me that's compelling because it really looks like you're there. They're popping out. There's a certain distance that I find 3D works, which is about 20 feet, under 20 feet. It's like between about 8 and 15 feet is this beautiful. Like where everything pops.
Oh, that's interesting.
And you get further away or closer up, and it's not as good. So, anyways, Ansel Adams. If Ansel Adams had lived to see all of this, do you think he would have embraced the technology?
Of course.
Yeah, a lot of people I think have this view of Ansel Adams like that he was super traditional and all that. He was
on the edge.
He was on the edge. He was out shooting Polaroids before Polaroids were in at all.
Edwin Land.
Yeah.
He's someone, you know this story. He turned me on to digital photography in 1981. Ansel Adams.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yes.
No, I was talking to him down in Carmel, and at the end of I was interviewing him actually, and at the end of my interview, I said, okay, I'm young, give me some advice as a young photographer starting out. What would you do? And he didn't hesitate for a second. He said, "Oh, I'd be into this electronic." He called it electronic photography and video. He said video, electronic photography. And then he went on and on and on. I had no idea what he was talking about because I was like, "Oh my God, this is not Tri-X. This isn't a chemical darkroom discussion." He's talking about the imaging that's coming from the satellite, what do they call it? The satellite that went around Mars and the Jet Propulsion Laboratory. And I walked out of there and I said, I better check on this because if Ansel Adams is talking about it. And right after that, Sony came out with the Mavica, which was the first electronic still camera. And I said, bingo, he's on to something. Yeah. And that's what kind of started my trajectory towards digital photography. Yeah. And it just went from that point on. It started with Ansel Adams. Yeah. He was really way out there.
Absolutely,
yes. So the answer is yes.
Absolutely yes on that, yeah.
The going green, any solutions for greener printing like soy or recycled papers for the Epson? This is from Kent King.
Great question.
Well, there are papers that are recycled, that are part recycled from stock or whatever. So that's definitely. I mean, a Red River has some that are that way. On the inks, I don't know. I know in offset printing, obviously soy inks are an option, but in photo printing at home, I don't know of any options. I think that's a good question.
Would you make a salad out of this and eat it?
I don't know if I'd want to put that in my mouth.
You want to look at it.
Yeah.
I have a problem with chromatic aberration in Lightroom. How can I correct this issue? This is from Shahan Mohammed.
Chromatic aberration is not a function of the software, it's a function of the objects.
Yes.
And Lightroom has chromatic aberration correction in the develop module. So all I can say is go to the develop module or go to my training video and, shameless plug.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry, but Lightroom should.
If you would have done a little more smoothly,
That wasn't smooth, was it? I can't do it
probably
smooth.
would. Yeah.
Well, let's just get it out of the way. Wait, let's get it out of the way. So we got some shameless plugs here. So, where can people find your website? Before we get to, we'll go back to questions here in a second. Just hold on a second.
Since you insist, I'll go ahead and do this. MikkelAaland.com, and it's not how it sounds. It's MikkelAaland. Right. Thank you, Derrick, for smirking at me when I said that.
Well, you pronounced your name wrong.
I pronounced my name wrong. MikkelAaland.com, and then it's just go under video training. And the training videos that I've done are available there, including a couple Lightroom titles. Excellent. And deal specifically with using the function in Lightroom to fix chromatic aberration, which is a lens problem, really, more than a lens. Software.
Right. And in case you don't know, Mikkel and I, we have this all the time. So he's sort of the Lightroom guy. I'm sort of the aperture guy.
You're sort of the aperture guy?
Yeah, sort of the aperture guy. And so, so you can direct your questions accordingly.
But can I just jump in and say that I have nothing against, what was it called? Aperture?
Who drank that? Who drank that martini, Mikkel? You remember that?
Hey, you're getting personal. We're not supposed to do that. Remember, Alex had no personal attacks.
No, he did not say that.
Where can people find?
TheDigitalStory.com.
TheDigitalStory.com. There you go.
Thank you very much.
And for our own little plug, we just want to remind everybody we've got great classes going on here in this studio and then also online. If you go to pixscore.com, you're going to see classes. We have a great class that's starting next week related to graphic design in Modo, and so that you want to definitely check that out. With Ellery Connell, and so he's great. We had him in the office. He's just a really great trainer. So if you want to figure out how to do graphic design in 3D and everything else, and then also Brent By, who did all the lighting for Twit, he's one of our masters of lighting. Like when we have questions about lighting, we're talking to Brent, and he's doing a class on everything from grip to lighting to camera.
Nice.
On the 17th, 18th, and 19th of October. So you definitely want to check that out. You can find that at pixscore.com.
That sounds fun.
More.
It
is. I'm going to the class.
I know. I was thinking.
Learn more about lighting.
Let me know. You guys, we'll work you guys out.
Lighting.
So anyway, we had the Lightroom printing. It's funny, in Star Wars I had to actually add chromatic aberration back in.
They put it back in?
Yeah, it was it was something about it. And I have to admit, Dennis Murin was the one that pushed for, he was pushing to do it, and John Knoll was pushing to do it. But Dennis Murin was really into this. We have to add the chromatic aberration back in. We were like,
to give it a flair?
As CG artists, we were kind of like, really? Really? And then we added it back in, and then we were like, he was right.
That's funny.
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
But we actually had a little plug-in in After Effects that just added the chromatic aberration back in.
Because we're doing that now with a grain slider in Lightroom. Because these bloody cameras are so good nowadays.
Yeah,
it's like, come on, what happened to that grain?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so we have a slider now. We can add it.
Add it back in.
I like a little noise.
I
mean,
do too.
For me, ISO 1600 is the new 400.
But it's just with the Nikon, which I shoot, and which is a great camera, by the way.
This is another area. See,
a little
I do notice, there's something interesting. Is I find there's a very high preponderance of Nikon users who are using Lightroom and Canon using Aperture.
No
and
way.
I'm running.
Really?
So
Aperture
and Canon, right?
Wait. People write in, tell us.
Wow.
Aperture and Canon.
Right.
Aperture and Canon, Nikon and
the other one,
Lightroom.
Yeah.
Frederick is Nikon and Lightroom.
Of course he is, yeah.
And I keep on talking to people, and there's something about the personality of that. I don't know. It's only I don't have any. We should do like a.
We have no data, but
we have no data. We just have anecdotal.
Yeah.
And if it's across 4 people, it's got to be.
Does Aperture add grain? Can you do that in there?
Can you add grain in Aperture? I don't know.
Because in my Nikon, Nikon 1600, there's no grain. It's not 400. It's no grain. Sorry. Shameless plug.
Another question. The questions are starting to stack up.
Yeah, because we're starting to fight.
I know exactly. Are there printers and inks?
Between us.
Are there printers and inks that can print reflective colors like pseudo gold or silver?
Boy. With the price of gold nowadays.
Yeah, exactly. Talk about an expensive print.
Because I had a friend. I knew someone that printed literally with gold. Had gold. I don't know how she did it, but she had gold leaf or something that was part of the emulsion. beautiful.
Wow.
Prints. Gorgeous. Really pretty. Really expensive.
Yeah.
That would be something that, now that I want to find out about, but I don't know the answer to that.
Just to add that kind of that, like
You print her hair with
metallic.
gold.
It could be fun.
And it could be fun.
Merge aperture and Lightroom. Who else wants? This is from Brian Dodds. Who else wants to merge aperture and Lightroom into one super app? I feel like it's just such a different personality.
Yeah.
My sister uses Lightroom, and I use aperture, and my brother actually uses Lightroom, but it's interesting. I like having all my thought. I don't want to think about it. I want it all in a vault. I like to have my vault, so I like to move them around. I like everything pooled into the system. I don't want them to be in a lot of different places. I find it's easier to go through lots of photos. I find it's easier to edit them in Lightroom. I find that it's easier to move through lots of photos and manage lots of photos quickly in Aperture.
Really?
That's been my experience.
Yeah, I mean, I think.
And I can make books, which is very important to me. Can you make books in Lightroom, like built in?
Wait, there's something going on over in the corner there.
The books have turned into like a real obsession of
You
mine.
can make books. You can make Blurb books. Blurb does a great interface with
There's
Lightroom.
a plug-in architecture.
Yeah, there's a plug-in architecture for doing that. And there's a lot of. I
do like Lightroom. I think there's a lot of things.
SmugMug has a wonderful plug-in with Lightroom. I think with Aperture too. But you're not that limited. But I gotta say, I do like the Apple iBook.
Yeah.
My wife
I'm
uses
always surprised
iPhoto.
that given people like me, talking about that stuff, and a lot of people talk about it. I'm kind of surprised Adobe hasn't put. I guess they're letting the plugins.
I teach Lightroom also, and there are a couple things in the development module. In Lightroom itself that I like. I love the lens correction stuff.
Yeah, the new one, Lightroom 3.
I love a lot of the correction in Lightroom. I think
it's fantastic, and the noise reduction that's built into
it's really good.
Lightroom is fantastic. There are some really wonderful things. So to his point, if I could take the features from both apps and have them be in one app, but I still like one metaphor a little bit better than the other.
Yeah. And I work with Photoshop a lot still, so I need that. I really like that seamless. It's not seamless, but relatively seamless.
It is.
Relationship between Lightroom and Photoshop.
I think that's the one thing that Adobe does well across all the applications is just this incredibly seamless interaction between all of these.
Nice.
Another one from Shahan Mohammed. This is I'm considering getting a Canon. WFT for the 5D Mark II. I'm wondering, can I do wireless tethering on shoots so everything syncs up in my catalog? Then can I also calibrate each camera?
I'm not sure on the second part.
Right.
Is he talking about with the software or with the printer? No, he must be talking with the software.
Yeah, I'm not sure. On the first part, though, that wireless transmitter is very good. You pay for it.
Yeah.
You pay for it. It's not cheap.
Right.
But I think he'll be able to do most things that he wants to do wirelessly, syncing or sending his images or whatever.
Could he say you can't send it from the camera to the printer, right?
No. There's because there's the whole driver. There's the whole driver issue. Okay. But now there are printers. Not this printer,
do that.
but there are printers where you can
That's
do
what I
that.
was asking,
Where you're sending a JPEG. You can't
process
process a raw file in the printer, but you can send a JPEG and have it print. On the second part of the calibration, I'm not quite sure what he's alluding to.
I'm not totally sure about that there.
Well, tethered shooting. You can do that with Lightroom. Where you can hook up the camera and have the shots go automatically into your.
You can do it with both.
You can do that with Aperture too.
Okay. The paper question follow-up, what realistically should you expect to pay for a quality 13 by 19 sheet?
With inks and everything, $3-4.
Yeah. For everything.
That's what I
expect.
That's kind of what I.
That's the calculation.
Yeah, I was 3 to 4. For a good, that's based on my 3800.
Yeah, I'd say it's a little bit less because
it could be less on this one.
Yeah, and it depends on the paper. The Red River runs about 40% less than the Epson, so so then in that case you're more around a couple bucks.
Right. Lightroom. Oh no, I already got that one. Picture books. Is the future of picture books still in print, or is this emergence of digital tech something that photographers should embrace for publication of their works? Is a traditional publication still the way to go, or has the time time to leave behind and go to ebook? Is there any good application? Well, here's the question: is out of Aperture or Lightroom, is there any good way to just print? I mean, I guess you could print a PDF, but it would be great. It seems like what you want next when it comes to digital printing is being able to print a
Kindle book, for example.
A Kindle book, or something that's fairly robust. Maybe even have interactive features, like little interactive rollovers and music and everything else.
That's brilliant.
Being able to insert all of that stuff, and be able to just, like, if I was in Aperture and I could publish a book or an application almost to an iPad.
I just finished a training video called, sorry, but it's a fair segue. But it's called EPUB for photographers, how to make your own EPUB books for photographers. But I got to tell you, the workflow is through InDesign. Okay.
Right.
Well, that's.
And how does that work?
It's a little bit. There's a learning curve. But when you're talking the way you were just talking right there, and I'm thinking, what I'm doing to tell people how to do it with InDesign, and I totally hear what you're saying.
I mean, out of Lightroom or Aperture, or just be able to, and I feel like
have it come out as an EPUB format, so I could stick it up on Amazon and put a $10 price tag on it right away. Are you kidding? Oh my gosh! Absolutely.
Well, and the thing is that I feel like Apple is really close to all of this because they have, when you look at Pages. You open up Pages, which I find to be a little heavy. Like in general, for general use, I most of the time I'm just using text edit, and sometimes bringing in Pages to fix a couple things. But but you can add video into it. You can add. There's all this stuff you're adding into Pages in Keynote.
The problem with Apple right now, and the iPad and iBooks, because that's what the pathway is for that, is that there's not that many people buying from the Apple iBook
in the
side.
iBook,
But if you get onto the Kindle side, into Amazon,
but
you can't. Then all these things that you're talking about, you can't do with the EPUB right now. The EPUB format
is very basic.
Think of HTML in 1995.
Because
that's it. That's all you got. So you have limited in that way. It's graphic designer's nightmare. But at the same time, you have a pathway to actually a distribution pathway that actually can make you some money via the Kindle and Amazon. So I'd say, we're at the early stages right now.
Well, and I'm looking at making some books, some training books. But what I'm going to actually do is probably end up building an application, like wrapping what I'm doing into an application that I sell in the App Store. Like that the idea is that it's an application because I don't want it to just be basic. I want to have a bunch of stuff about.
But it's still just going to be for the Apple platform,
which is not that small.
Yeah, but compared to the Amazon.
I don't know.
I mean, we're talking huge number differences.
I know, but I don't. But then it'll look like crap.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely.
So the thing is that there's a little bit of the artist side of me that just goes. I don't want. I haven't made a book. I put off making books because I'm just in this. And there's part of me that just goes. I want to make one, but I want it to have a little interactivity, and I want to have it this, and I want. And the reason I haven't made them is like someone asked me to write a manual for them in 1995, and I wanted to build the entire thing in Director so that everything was hyperlinked and all that.
Gosh, you were ambitious.
Like I was like I wanted.
95.
And they said.
Director.
And they said no, we're not going to pay you to do that. But to me. It's finally catching up to where we're almost to that point where we could do that. I mean, not quite there, but you could see it. Like it's now like over the horizon. It's not like over that mountain. It's like right.
You know what I worked on in 1992? CDI. Philips.
Oh yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
CDI. Yeah. CDI. A lot of work, a lot of time. You know how many people saw that project? There were, I think 3 discs were sold.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I mean it. And that was like, I learned a big lesson there. If you're going to do something, wait for it to be a little more mature.
But build all the stuff around that.
Or just learn.
Yeah, absolutely.
One thing, just one final point on this. One thing that I am seeing photographers do that sort of want to establish themselves or get out there, get their name out there, is that they are creating a PDF book. On a subject that they're passionate about, street shooting, whatever, and then just putting it out there. And I've seen photographers get a lot of traction, by doing that.
Yeah.
So I think the medium's coming along.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that wouldn't be viewable on a Kindle, though, just as a point.
Right, exactly.
On the current ones, but the new Kindles, the Fire, will be able to show all kinds of mediums. Okay. So video and stuff like that. So that's a whole other.
That's $199. Yeah. Unbelievable.
Yeah. I might get one. So
pretty cheap.
Not that I ever buy any technology tools. So anyway,
what's this bag down here?
Yeah, let's not bring that bag out. It's what happens when I fall into the Apple store is I always come back with a bag of stuff that I didn't need.
Is that for the guests tonight?
Yeah. That party gives. You can have an HDMI cable. Here, take an HDMI cable. All right.
I need a 15-foot USB.
So another question: how important is storing your paper in a dry place when it comes to print quality and paper ink absorption performance? So if you're going to print on it, do you do a lot of extra? Do you keep it in the fridge?
No, I don't. I live in California.
Yeah, exactly.
So
I would just make one point because I haven't found that temperature was as big of an issue for me.
Humidity.
No, it's the flatness, how you store it,
right,
and how careful you are about stacking it. Because I've had cases where I have big boxes, like the big sheets, huge sheets, and they warp, and that's where I've gotten into trouble.
Yeah.
Not so much humidity or cold.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I go through a process. I have boxes that have my prints that aren't my favorites. I mean, they're almost there, but not quite there.
Yeah.
And I try not to let that stack get too thick, you know. And then I start a new box. But then the stuff that I like, I actually put in archival sleeves.
Right.
And it goes in a book.
So
and,
this is after you've printed.
After I printed,
I was talking about before printing. But obviously they're
and then
related.
before I print, I keep it in the box and don't stack the boxes too high.
Yeah, and be careful how you stack.
Yeah, and be careful how you stack them.
One of the other things when I'm that I just started playing with in some of my storage areas is I guess they started making them for hearing aids, but they have these little ceramic things that they start all gray, and you can put them into a box with a bunch of stuff that you're storing.
Right.
And when they turn to blue, when they've absorbed a lot of, they just turn blue as they absorb moisture.
I love that.
Oh.
And then you take them all, you put them in the oven, you cook them, and don't touch them immediately because they're
Right, hotter than heck.
So anyway, but then you put them back in and you stick them back in and they're ready to go again.
I have heard of those.
And
cool.
And it was funny. I was trying to figure out where did these come from? I saw them at like NAB or something like that. And I guess they were what people would store hearing aids in or whatever to keep them nice and dry. Evidently, that's a big deal.
We don't have that issue here in California.
Hearing aids,
the humidity.
Yeah. No, but I mean,
we have it easy in that
We have
area.
it real easy for that.
But there's places that I work in. Like I have a friend that owns a print shop in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania.
Ooh. Yeah.
Moisture is a constant, constant issue for all of the stuff that they do. Price of the Epson 2000. This is a popular question from the IRC. How much does the printer cost? How much does a 2000 cost? Epson 2000.
So it depends on where you buy it. If you go onto, let's say, Amazon, for example, I think it's $4.99.
No, $3.99.
$3.99 on Amazon.
Was it $4?
And this is the Epson 2000. This is, okay.
Yeah, this one here.
It was $4.99.
I think it's $4.99.
You're right. That was
but if shop around because you can either get it out of the for $3.49, either the final price or with a rebate.
From Epson.
That's great.
That was at the Epson site.
Yeah, the Epson sites is probably the best deal I've seen right now.
out.
Yeah. So, but they're making
Get
more.
some back. I think Amazon only had one left.
They know somebody in the business.
Yeah,
exactly.
They're making more.
Okay.
But right now, the best price I've seen is on the Epson site. So
$3.49.
$3.49.
Yeah.
The tall shooter, Derrick. I am also tall, 6'7". This is from Ken Chin Purcell.
Hey, Ken, right on.
And I wanted to hear your thoughts about shooting from on high. I found that shooting from live view as opposed to the viewfinder enables me to get this camera down a little bit more to quote unquote normal height. What are your strategies, if any?
Yeah, when you're tall, this is a real issue, right? So for years, when I'd come back from a wedding, at night I was, God, my legs just hurt like heck because I was constantly sort of in this, lowered position. This is so that my angle would be correct because you have to be very careful. You can't be shooting down on people all the time. Right. So the new cameras that have the LCDs that swing out make that a lot easier because you can do live shooting. I don't do live shooting all the time though because it's still not as responsive, and as you know,
you kind of hit it and there's this little weird delay.
Well, and the focusing, generally speaking, is not as good. So there's a lot to having very strong legs when you're tall. Right. But it's good that you're aware of it because tall shooters that aren't aware of it, they're going to sometimes get not flattering angles.
Exactly. You're looking literally down on somebody.
Which sometimes is cool, but not all the time.
You may be making a statement like that's how you feel.
You may be. It's when you don't realize you're making a statement that's not so good.
Printing on vellum. Have you ever heard of someone using a photo printer to print on vellum? We need a
I tried that.
Voynich manuscript for the 21st century.
I tried it. I really jammed up my printer. that was a couple years ago.
It seemed like a good idea.
Really
it worked in my head.
I liked the translucency of it, the idea,
right,
you know, that idea that it would. And I remember it was this, I'm going to get this to work, and I'm sure you can make it work now. This was years ago.
Right.
Get the right film, but yeah, you can do it. You should be able to do it.
Should be able to do it, but I could see that.
I had the wrong vellum because it jammed.
It could be dangerous in there, and getting that out probably wasn't fun.
It wasn't good.
No.
Another question, you made mention of Wi-Fi connectivity. Is this really practical for critical prints? What about data loss? Or what happens with data loss? Is there data loss? It takes a little longer.
I mean, I haven't.
Does it take any longer to print over Wi-Fi?
No, it's actually quite fast.
We're just doing it here because there's like 40 Wi-Fi signals within, literally, there are 40 within like 2 blocks of this office. And so the idea of trying to do this and on air, we thought, like,
I mean, if I could see all the little packets going, through the air, then it'd be easier. But my short answer is I haven't had any problems.
Shouldn't be.
I haven't seen any problems.
Great.
Yeah.
I think we're at the end of our rope. Let's see. We're going to check this here real quickly.
That's what you do with this at the end.
What?
Put us on a rope, huh?
Well,
Great.
I didn't want to talk about that until the end of the show. Otherwise, you wouldn't have been nearly as fun. So anyway, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Mikkel Aaland. Where again can people find you?
MikkelAaland.com. It's been really fun talking to both of you. Thank you for having me. And
thanks for coming.
And we should acknowledge Frederick. Hi Frederick, wherever you
miss
are.
you.
And I am his doppelganger. Obviously.
Yeah.
Well, you're a good substitute because you guys, sort of have similar aesthetics.
Yeah.
Well, you're close enough. We can have you up here all the time.
Yeah. Sorry.
So we'll get you to come
I'd
back.
love to come back. It's not far from San Francisco.
Yeah, it's easy.
It's good.
Absolutely.
I love it.
And Derrick.
Yes.
Thank you. The Derrick.
The Derrick. The digital story.
The Derrick.
As opposed to the imposter Derrick.
Yes.
Or just say the tall guy.
Right.
The tall shooter.
Yes, exactly. Well, I love coming anytime. So
yeah. Well, and you're really local.
I'm in the backyard here.
Yeah. So we'll definitely have you back again.
Yeah.
We want to thank everybody for tuning in. A reminder that we got those classes. Check it out at pixelscore.com. And we will be going on next week where it's going to be Gear Media Tech, so we'll be talking about video production next week. I think we're trying to get Brent By, who's doing the class in a couple weeks, to be showing off some of his cool stuff next week, so stay tuned for that. Just about every Thursday we have a stream here, so if you liked what you saw, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, we come up with something. It's this is TWIP. We have Gear Media Tech, which is more video production. Inside the Black Box, which is more special effects production. And then we have Mac Break Studio Live, which is more specific to post-production, whether it's Smoke or After Effects or Final Cut and Motion. And that'll be coming up in the not-too-distant future. And so thank you all for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.